Alright, so a lot of you will have been out recently in the last couple of weeks because COVID's like let up a little bit. But during COVID lockdown in Dubai, especially, and all over the world actually, people were stuck inside, and a lot of cyclists and triathletes and people who never tried it before invested in a turbo trainer and were exposed to power for the first time. So you'd be riding your endurance session or your Walker Wednesday or your Foster Friday, and everything would have a number associated with it to do with power. So now we're back outside. The difficult thing is trying to relate that power to an actual sensation in your legs if you don't have a power meter already on your bike. That would be my first recommendation, is to get a power meter. On my Scott, I don't have a power meter. So I've got to go by heart rate and perception of effort. Perception of effort, especially during the summer, is one of the most valuable and reliable things you can use when out on a bike ride, for that matter. But today we're talking about runs and how to use perception of effort to measure and gauge your effort level. So as you can see, that ride outside and explain what zones are outside compared to what inside on a turbo trainer didn't really work that well due to the sandstorm that's currently ensuing Times Square. So I'm just going to have to talk this one out to you. Basically, zone 1 is your recovery zone and should feel very, very simple, like very easy in terms of relating this to a bike outside. So you should feel relaxed, you should feel like you do this all day, and you should feel, am I even working? That's the general sensations you should feel. In terms of your heart rate, if you've got a heart rate monitor on your bike, which has obviously a heart rate strap, you want it to be anything below 70% of your lactate threshold heart rate. So if you haven't done or worked that out yet, basically take your FTP data from indoors and the heart rate associated data, and hey bingo, you've got it. Number 2 is your endurance. So this is, a lot of you guys will be doing this like 3, 4, 5 hour rides at a very like a quite chilled level, a chilled intensity, and inside this would be around about like 55 to 75% of your FTP, but not strictly like those levels all the time. And outside, in terms of your heart rate, that'll be about 70 to 87% of your heart rate. How it should feel, you should feel like you are a little step up above Mr. Zone 1, which is like full on relax. If 10 is your max and 1 is your easiest, you should be around about 3, 4.5 out of 10 maybe, and then you'll be absolutely golden. So next is our lovely tempo. So a lot of people get sucked into this on a group ride where some of the riders are stronger than themselves, and they get sucked along what they think is an endurance ride, but it's actually a pretty difficult ride. So zone 3 tempo should feel like you are working, but you couldn't really keep it up all day. So you have to breathe, it feels hard work, you can speak a little bit less frequently than you would do in an endurance ride. In terms of your tempo on a power meter, so when you're inside, it's like 75 to 90, 91% of your FTP, and when you take that outside in terms of heart rate, that should be around 87 to 95% of your lactate heart rate. Not necessarily gospel at this time of year, and because of the heat your heart rate might spike, or because of dehydration that might spike as well. So going off RPE, that should feel like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Don't stress again too much. This is a very nice zone to be in if you can sustain it and if you're training for it. Don't try and get caught in here too much, because it's a grey zone and you'll either just stay where you are or you'll get a little bit bored and forget about it. The next one is your lactate threshold, or just threshold really, or zone 4 training. So this is your threshold training sessions that you've done quite a lot of these in the Walker Wednesdays and the Foster Fridays. These are the stingy ones. The thing that you're pedaling, it's your theoretical hour-long max, right? So it's like 91% to 105% of FTP. It's around about 95 to 100% of lactate threshold heart rate. So it's up there. It's your theoretical hour-long max. We're basically looking here to have that stingy leg, something you feel, right, this is tricky. This is hard. I cannot sustain this past around about an hour, or depends if you push beyond that, around about 20 minutes or 12 minutes. It should feel hard. You shouldn't be able to talk that much. You should sweat, and you should feel that perception of effort. It should feel, if that 10 is your eyeballs popping out, it should feel like 6.5 to 7. sometimes knocking up to 8 out of 10. Yeah, and the last one is power slash VO2 max slash hit. When you go above your threshold, so like above 105% of FTP, that's those powerhouse sessions, those real 5 or 3 to 5 minute efforts, sometimes up to 8, where it just burns and hurts, and you cannot for the life of you see you going beyond that. That's what we're looking for here. It should feel anywhere between like an 8.5 to 9.5 out of 10, depending on how much and within which range you are. In terms of heart rate, out the window, like over 100, 105% would be easy. Sorry, I've got people moving around me. And in terms of perception effort, you shouldn't be speaking, full focus. It's pretty dangerous to do this if you are on an actual road with cars about you. So if Al Qudra is fine, but just make sure you're aware of people around you, because when you're going this hard, it's really hard to concentrate on other things apart from the pedaling itself and keeping up and sustaining that effort. You feel that burning in your legs that really builds up over the 3-5 minutes that you hold that intensity, and it should give it you have a good bit of rest. So breathing hard, not speaking, concentrating fully, feels like death, you're in zone 5. Knocking up, like max effort stuff, it's just full gas. You shouldn't feel like you can sustain it past 10-15 seconds. It's just hard, all right? Yeah, so you want to feel like you would rather, I don't know, like stab yourself in the leg with a fork as opposed to keep that effort up. It should be that intense. It's neuromuscular, so it's real thought process goes into these short, sharp, like high intensity efforts. Anything above 115, 120% of FTP is knocking this. Heart rate is out the window because it's so short and sharp. The heart rate doesn't have time to react to it, and yeah, you just can't, it's not sustainable. So those are your, like, really briefly how to translate the power meter inside that you've been trading on for the last 2.5 months and been living by those numbers. That's how to rate them outside. Personally, if you have a threshold session or if you have a powerhouse session, but you've got hours either side of that, I would always choose to go out for an hour and a half, nice and easy, come back in, do your structured intervals on the turbo trainer, and then go back out to finish your ride / cool down. Because if you're on a road that has cars in it, threshold stress sessions, powerhouse sessions, or like power zone 5 training sessions are really hard to sustain and take a lot of concentration. So the increase in chance of crashes or just not going to plan because it's hard to keep the consistent numbers when you're outside, it's pretty tricky. So yeah, if you have the access to ride back to a turbo trainer, do it. And if you don't, it might be worth getting your session done in the morning, so an hour and a half worth of those quality intervals, and then later on in the evening, or just hop straight back out and get on the bike and just pedal outside for a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Basically, RPE is your golden rule. It's a really reliable source for effort level outside, especially during the summer, because of the heat, because of the dry or the humidity, your heart rate will spike. So using that as a direct correlation to your power indoors might not always be enough. So trust your legs. When you are on the turbo trainer inside, try and think about those feelings and those sensations that you're feeling and take them outside with you. So threshold session, you're breathing hard. Recovery, you are chilling, watching Netflix. It's as simple as that. It's nothing to be feared. You can easily take your power meter inside and relate it to your RPE or perceived rate of exertion outside. I hope this hasn't been too much of a ramble. If you have any questions or any follow-up things about this, like the RPE scale or lactate heart rate, please let me know. Happy to help. Ciao.